Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Myers. I was a Harborside student. I don't know what year I started. I graduated in 2020. I was there sixth grade up through my senior year. I'm just going to go through these questions for you. First question. What was your experience when you joined Harborside? How did you adjust to the school environment and the habits of success that were already a big part of culture by the time you arrived? Um, So when I started, I had an elementary school experience, but going to Harborside right away, it was just kind of school, right? I didn't know what middle school would be. I didn't know what high school would be, so it seemed kind of normal. But as I had friends that were at different schools, as I kept up with them throughout middle school or high school, I learned that Harborside was very different. There were a lot of things that we did that weren't the same. And as I spoke about some of the things to my family as well, they said, that's interesting. One of the big ones was habits of success, which my first couple years at Harborside was considered, they were called character traits instead of habits of success. They ended up changing the name because character traits, people felt like they were being judged on their character, and it was viewed in a strange way. So they're the same thing, they just have a different name. But now you have habits of HOS grades, right? It's like a separate grade thing. You have awards. Excuse me. I remember the first year they had the awards because right away it wasn't as big. I mean, they were talked about, but they kept track of your character points, which are now habits of success points, but they kept track of those along the way, and it influenced your grade in a way of like, if you were failing character, you failed the class. But now those are kind of standalone grades you can actually track. It also used to be, I believe you had 6 points a semester, and you could only lose, right? If you lost 3 of those, you had a 50%. Now I believe when I left, I believe you got 1 a week. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So those have changed. Question 2 is, by the time you joined, the habits of success have been revised. How did you see the revised traits being practiced by both teachers and students? Can you share a moment when you saw one of these traits in action? I think I kind of answered this one already. I haven't read the questions beforehand. I'm just making the video now. Did you find any revised habits easier or harder to apply in your school or life? I don't know if any of them were changed when I was there. I guess the evolution could be more understanding. Things like integrity and tenacity, I didn't fully understand until I was making my way through, especially in sixth grade. Integrity, that's a huge word. I had to learn a lot more about that one. A moment when I saw them in action. I guess a lot of it would be I played cello all throughout my time at Harborside, and there were times I did not want to practice. And it was a thing of I can say I practice and nobody knows, and it's just an integrity thing, whether or not you're doing it. The intensive for solo and ensemble that I used to do, I'm just out in the hallway practicing 8 hours a day. Am I doing that really? No, but how much of the time am I doing that? That's the real question. So it was just one of those, just integrity is a huge one. As I continued at Harborside, as I was very involved in things like orchestra, I could spend time away from the classroom, but there was trust, right? You had to, teachers were trusting me. You build that. So big one, integrity. Next one, question 3. How did the habits of success play a role in the expeditions, fieldwork, and expert speaker experience you had at Harborside? Can you share a memorable experience where you used one or more of the HOS traits in these activities? Okay, one of the big ones, I think, was fieldwork in one of the camps one year. I don't remember what year it was, but we were on a reservation ground, Indian reserve, something like that. And we did a lot of things. We also, we went to a powwow at one point. And it was a lot of just like learning how to be respectful and how to do things in a respectful way. I want to say it was 7th or 8th grade, now that I'm thinking about it. But I mean, we're in an environment where we don't know, we don't understand as much as we want to. So being educated and using the habits of success, respect, and making sure, oh, that mound in the ground, you shouldn't go jump on because that people are buried there. So using respect was a big one. In this field work, we were in other people's land, and all of it. I mean, leave the place cleaner than you found it. I don't know if Harborside still says that, but that was anytime I stepped outside, we cleaned everything up. It's respect. It's not only through the field work, it's an everyday thing, and you see that one a lot through field work. Number 4, how did the revised habits of success shape your ability to work in teams and take on leadership roles? Can you describe an experience where you had demonstrate cooperation and leadership to help a group succeed? At Harborside, I would always kind of take the leadership position when I was in a group setting or something like that. I don't know if this question means only at my time at Harborside or beyond, so I'm going to talk about beyond because why not? Currently, I go to college, University of Wisconsin Stout. I'm a packaging engineering major, and I'm president of the packaging club. So I've done a lot of really cool stuff. Last year, I held an event on campus called Pack Jam 24, where I just wanted to hold a big event with people from all over the world to talk about packaging. And I did it, and it cost me over $100,000, which I don't have in my bank account. I just started emailing companies saying, hey, I want to hold this event, send me money. Spent a lot of money, had hundreds of people come. A lot of them didn't even go to my school. Most of them flew in from other places. So it was really cool. It was really awesome. And it all came down to leadership. To operate something like that as a student was crazy. And it came back to, okay, at Harborside, when I ran a project did a project like every single day, or when we had our expeditions or expedition events, I believe they're called, where it was like you show off everything you did for the whole semester. I was always on the team to help plan some of that stuff. And now I brought that further into still in school, maybe not quite the real world, but pretty darn close. A lot of that carries over. Number 5, observing changes in school culture. How did you see Harborside school culture evolve with changes in the HOS? Were there self-practices, activities, or events that highlighted these changes for you as a student? I felt like my time at Harborside, I watched Harborside's culture really change. When it began, it was very much so the people there wanted to be there and they really cared about the habits of success and the character traits and all that. And people kind of got the vibe that Harborside, I mean, we went camping once a semester. They're like, oh, this is the easy school. You don't have to do anything. That's not true. Harborside's different. But it's not easier. It's not harder. It's just something else. So people started going there and not really caring. And I mean, the dress code has changed. My senior year, I could wear blank t-shirts with khakis, and now there's no dress code. You can wear hats. I mean, my freshman year, my 6th grade year, I was wearing a collar every day, stuff like that. And I felt like that was really important a little bit to what Harborside was. And some of those things started to go. I mean, the camping trips, I believe, went from 3 days to 2 days. Or in middle school, they might only be like a day trip. I really feel like Harborside is a really unique school, and it really is good. It really is great. But you don't understand that until you leave. You don't really notice how important everything was and how big of an impact it makes on who you are until you leave. And I really think it's amazing. I mean, it is now my 5th year out of high school, and it's done really great things for me. But you don't get that until you graduate. and it might not even come for a couple of years after you graduate. And I think people have spent 4 years there, still don't understand it, and just think, well, this is dumb. It's not dumb. But the Harborside culture has really changed and gone away from Harborside. What you experience today with the Harborside culture, amplify that, right? Whatever that you feel that's like the different part of Harborside, multiply that by 10, 100, and that's what it was like in some of the earlier years. And I'm sure when I started, people before me felt the same way, right? I graduated in 2020. I clicked on half the other people's videos in here. They all graduated in like 2016. That was forever ago. But back to the other questions. Growth of leadership. How did they leadership role? Blah blah blah. Question number 6: the role of EL design principles in your learning. How did the EL design principles, such as collaboration, empathy, self-discovery, and service, interact with the HOS in your learning experiences? Can you recall a specific instance where you saw these principles come together in a meaningful way? Okay, here we go. The EL learning, I think, is huge. I was at the EL National Conference of 2016, I believe, in Detroit. I was talking on stage. If you watch the video, my shoes are not the same color, and my voice is really high. But the self-discovery, I think, is huge. That's one of the biggest things. I mean, in math class and calculus, we'd get a question that we did not answer and just say, figure it out. And when I figured it out, I really remembered it. It wasn't just someone telling me this is the equation. I mean, I was hitting my head against the wall for an hour and I figured it out. And now that's up here. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. But before that, I think to get there, it's a lot of cooperation and a lot of leadership. I mean, collaboration, cooperation, right? Same thing. But the self-discovery, I think, is one of the biggest parts of EL, and you can't always do that by yourself. It takes a long time by yourself. It's really difficult. When you can, that's awesome, but you need to work in a group a lot of the time, and that takes cooperation. That takes a level of leadership. I mean, tenacity, huge one. Respect, right? If you're working by yourself too, tenacity and respect, that's huge. Working with a group, same things with other. I mean, it's a weird to phrase how did the HOS impact these, because I mean, I can relate everything I do back to the HOS, right? You work in a group, it's all of them, right? You also need humor and integrity. That's another one. I mean, group projects, integrity. But I think self-discovery is one of the biggest things, and it's just you're working in a group. You're trying something that you don't know how to do. You're working really hard. That's every habit of success that there is. And I think you need to recognize the habits of success. Influence of the founding students and school legacy. How do you think the students from the first year help set the tone for the school culture, even after they graduate? Do you feel connected to the legacy of the original students in some way? Follow up, how do you see your role as an early student in continuing and evolving habits of success for future generations of Harborside students? Okay, I talked about how I kind of feel like a lot of the Harborside culture started to dwindle a little bit. But at my time at Harborside, I don't know what the first year of Harborside was. 2013? No, 2012? Doesn't matter. I think I started 2013 or 2012. One of those years. And I think Harborside existed before then. In middle school, it was weird. Because it was originally Paideia, and I think I might have been the first year it was Harborside Middle School, not Paideia Middle School. I don't know. What I can tell you is, in middle school, I mean, it was a lot of like when I shadowed, I saw people and I thought, oh, that person's really cool. And then all of a sudden they were a year above me and I got to know them and they were still really cool. So you always just kind of look up. You looked up to people. You saw someone, you liked them. You wanted to not imitate them, but you liked them. You wanted to be like them. You follow in their footsteps. I don't have any specific names of like very early first year students, but I mean, even just small things of like the way they dress, right? Because we have to wear collar, right? You gotta, then like khakis a lot of the time, you're dressing different than you're used to. So to see people that dress and you really like, you follow that. But I think a lot of it came down to leadership in some of the student groups, whether it be National Honor Society, or for you it would be NJHS, or like an orchestra. I mean, orchestra was really defined by the way the orchestra was just defined by the people who were like the first chairs when I went there, right? And they were like the senior and I wasn't, and I looked up to them and learned. I don't know, and I don't know how I contributed either. I'm sure I did. I mean, I was at the Yale conference. I was very involved. Lots of people shadowed me, so I'm sure I contributed. Can I directly say who and how and why? No, I don't think I can. But yeah, I guess. That's the end of the video. I'm gonna quickly scroll, see if there's another video. A question? No. Okay. Moral of the story. You don't know what Harborside is until you leave. This school really is amazing. I've been very successful from the things the school has taught me, and a lot of people I know that I graduated with have done amazing things, and they're saying it's because of Harborside, and Harborside has really changed them and who they are and how they act and how they approach problems. But you won't know that until you finish high school and you're 2 years out and you look back on it. And the habits of success are really a defining factor of that. The habits of success are a very easy way to help guide you. Is that the answer? Are the habits of success what makes Harborside special? Not completely. But they are the way to guide you to this special thing. There you go. That's my video. Goodbye.